So in this video, I wanted to talk about the theory and some of the reasonings why I have certain cards in my deck. It's going to be a little bit of everything. Why I don't run Sekka, why I don't run Undyne, the reason for the Rosenix and the Fishboard, all that kind of stuff, and why I don't go over for the extra, like why my extra deck looks the way it looks like. So that's pretty much what I'll do. I'll also link in the corner and at the end of this video to my actual extra deck, or to my deck list. I'll have an updated version with the Summon Sorceress. It won't be a big difference, but it'll be something something a little bit more updated. Summon Sorceress busts open a lot of decks. Usually any deck that can make the Tomahawk can actually abuse her really well. This and ABC that come to mind. But without further ado, here we go. So we're now in July, which means that this card in front of us, Summon Sorceress, is now legal in the TCG, in the US at least anyway. So why is this card so good? This card has really made the deck, the Mermail deck, a lot more consistent and a lot less fragile, because it gives you another thing you can go into that extends your combos. The main combo that we had before, where we would summon the Toad Cat Shark combo with the Floodgate on the field with Griffin, that combo is now consistent with all three. And I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. So here we go. Alright, so if you remember my old video was pretty much, this was the weakest combo you could probably do as far as the Neptibus combos go. Whenever you did this, you would end with the suboptimal board. You would have to use the trap, and you really wouldn't get anywhere. Luckily, though, now that we have Summon Sorceress and the extra deck, she makes it so even this hand can get you that big combo, the full combo, and I'll show you why. So what we'll do is we'll start with anything, summon the Teus or summon the Neptibus, send Dragoons to get Dragoons, and then that Dragoons will get us a Megalo. Now you'll get rid of the Dragoons and the water monster to summon Megalo. The Megalo is going to get you some discard fodder. Usually I actually like to search for the Mizuchi first, and then the Dragoons will get you the other Megalo. Where'd it go? There he is. So that's what it looks like. Now you'll get rid of these two, the other two waters, to summon Megalo again. And then now we'll add the Spirit to our hand. So you end up with that. So now, usually what we would do is we would go into the Link Karibo. Might as well use it. And we'll go into Megalo. Or we'll rank those two up to the Tomahawk. Now we get 4 monsters. And now, instead of going straight into Firewall Dragon, what we can do is we can go into Summon Sorceress. What we need is another Cyverse monster. So we can make Proxy Dragon if we wanted to, but I kind of prefer to run this guy right here. So we'll do 3, and this time we'll go into Space Insulator. If you don't have any level 1 monsters and you could just make a Tomahawk, the Space Insulator is good to pair up with the Link Spider. Because they're both Cyverse, you can get rid of both of them, and you can summon the Summon Sorceress. Now, that's assuming that the 3 monsters are going to be here. Summon Sorceress would be pointing to one of the machines. You can activate her effect to target a machine, and that'll bring out the Crystron Rosenix from your deck. That's going to be awesome, because now what you can do is Crystron Rosenix adds another material to your pool that you can use, but then Crystron Rosenix acts as an additional monster that you can use for Link summons, which is perfect. So now what you can do is you can get to the Crystron, go to 2, and oh, don't get rid of that. And you go into your first Link 2. So we can say the first Link 2 is going to be the Nightmare Phoenix. Now we get rid of 1 more token and the Sorceress, and that gets us our Firewall Dragon. We get rid of the Phoenix and we go into the Mermaid. Now with the Mermaid, we discard one of our searchers. I would discard this because it's the least useful right now. The least useful one right now. And what we'll do is we will summon our Ib from our deck. There it is. And so, of course, with Mizuchi, we'll just draw a card. I'm just going to add a random water monster to my deck. I'll run Osha. Why not? And so now what you could do is we'll get rid of those two to summon your other Link 2 that points sideways. So this time it's to Cerberus because we already used the other one. Normally we would have to do Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2 with Firewall to have a water, but what if you didn't draw a water? What if instead of drawing an Osha, you draw Called by the Grave? Well, the Summon Sorcerers makes this combo so resilient that it doesn't matter what you draw, you could just banish the Rosenix, get a token, and that makes it so now you have the full Link play. You have the 1, the 2, and the 1, so that's a Link 4. The only difference is now you have to waste a Link 3 monster in order to get this combo, which is fine. So if you do end up drawing like a Call by the Grave or something like that, or a spell, you would link these two up into a Link 3. My go-to is Ningirsu. But before you do that, you obviously want to get the Firewall combo's effect. So we'll get his effect, and we will get a Dragoons and a Dragoons. Just like that. So now what you do is you link these two up, go into the Ningirsu. That'll trigger our Firewall, summon a Dragoons here, and then we get rid of the token in the Ningirsu, and that'll trigger our Nightmare Griffin. And I won't even draw, I won't even activate its effect because I have the trap in my hand. So that'll trigger our Firewall, summon the Dragoons, overlay these two, Bahamut, detach one, get the Toad. The Dragoons will get us a card, which will be Deep Sea Diva. And so once we have that, we'll get rid of the Firewall and the Bahamut because we've used them, and we'll summon the Goblin. Now with the Goblin, we can discard a random card, so we'll just assume we discarded it and drew another one. It doesn't matter what we draw at this point, really, to be honest with you. And so what we would do now is we would summon the Diva. She would summon the infantry from the deck. And now we can overlay these two into the Cat Shark. And so that makes your combo possible. That makes it so that you can now, these cards pretty much are irrelevant. You don't need it because of this. Now, you would want to probably set this so that you don't have to get rid of your Toad. You can just use something from your deck to negate. But as you're cycling through your cards, if you do end up drawing something, if you draw the Called by the Grave, that's great because you can just flip it and just negate a card your opponent has. If you draw this, well, you're going to have this, so you're going to be able to do something with that. So we could have discarded this, set it, and then drawn something else. One of the big things I don't like is you might end up drawing all your infantries. It's very unlikely, but just in case you do, sometimes based on how many infantries I draw in my first hand, I will go doing that. But yeah, that's the effect that the Summon Sorceress has with this deck. She can turn your worst play into a great play. Alright, so one of the first things that I want to basically understand with my deck is did you decide to play with the regular build instead of Sekka's Light? Sekka's Light is a very, very great card. It lets you draw 2 cards. It makes your first hand be 6. And with the deck that wants a really big hand, you would assume that I would want to play with Sekka's Light. Not only that, chances are every time I draw, my draws are probably going to be monsters. Which, if you see in my previous videos where we start recycling with the nightmares, that's what you want. You want a bunch of monsters. The only thing you want to do is to be able to draw a Neptibus. What I have noticed is one of the biggest cards that you want to resolve in this deck is you want to make 2 level 7s, and then from there you actually want to make Megalo. The problem with Megalo is he's very wasteful. So what ends up happening a lot of the times is you end up resolving Megalo, And then if your plays end up not going through, you have a few cards in your deck that are normal summons that really don't do anything. Or if they stop you from searching for another Megalo or from summoning another Megalo, well, that's where your plays end. So the reason I like running the 2 Megalo cards, the Spell and the Trap, are because they work by themselves. Except for the Spell, the Trap can work as, you know, a chump blocker. It can work as link material. Granted, you don't get it the first turn, but to be honest with you, a lot of the times whenever you play, it's not usually where you get OTK'd. I mean, you can get OTK'd. It's a possibility if your opponent draws a perfect hand, then yes. But I wanted to make my deck have a few more options. If I ran this, I would limit myself to just having Monster Mesh. Now, it's a great card. It's one of the best cards you can run in Mermails. But the problem with this card is it takes away my ability from gaining advantage from my Megalo searches, which is huge. You want to be able to keep your hand size consistent, because if you ever do start going into those nightmare combo plays, you end up, if you don't get any Megalo searches and you don't get Sekka's Light, you're probably not going to you're probably end up going to be cycling 1 card instead of 2. The searches for Megalo basically make it so that you only get rid of 1 card, because you discard 2 for the Megalo and then he gets you back 1 from your deck. So if you can resolve those, then the Megalos didn't really cost you 2 cards, they cost you 1, and they keep your hand size consistent. You get 3 cards on the field, you get 2 cards in your hand, so you never went down in the amount of cards that you used. Even if you resolve a Sekka's Light and you do the whole Neptibus combo, you end up going 3 cards on the field, 2 cards in your hand, because your Neptibus got you the cards, but you were unable to cycle them out. Not only that, if your play ever gets interrupted, then you can always pull out the Pike out of the deck with the Trap, and it still becomes some sort of interruption. So I feel like it makes them a little bit more resilient. This card is great, don't get me wrong, but now you're relying on 3 cards out of a 40-card deck to draw to make your deck good. Otherwise, it's probably easier for me to search out the Neptibus than it is to search out the Sekka's Light. Although the Sekka's Light does make it easier for you to summon it, for you to go into the Neptibus and dig for it, it doesn't help you in any other situation. And this deck, as soon as it runs out of steam, the top deck Sekka's Light isn't going to help you. So I like this card a lot, but that is a big issue when it's a lot more flexible to get spells and traps, and you can run things like Called by the Grave. So if they try to interrupt you, you have something to fight back with. Or if you draw it, it's not completely dead. You can still use it. You can get a Searcher for your Neptibus with 1 for 1. You can run cards like that, and then even if your plays get somewhat interrupted, you have the equipped spell to negate at least 1 card that your opponent throws at you, which is good. But that's the reason I like running the build that I like right now, because it keeps your hand size consistent with Megalo. It lets you get value with Megalo, and it makes it so that you have more options to play. You don't just go blindly into a match, and if your opponent has a hand trap, that's it. You give up. It makes your combos go through a little bit more. So, but this card is great. If there comes a time where we get once we get Kriston Needle Fiber, what'll probably end up happening, I'll probably have to run the Sekka's Light, because there's other monsters that I'd probably want to run, and if I'm just running 3 cards, then there's kind of no point. If I can make a co-linked Firewall Dragon with 1 card, or a Saryuja with 1 card, there's no point in me running the rest of the cards, because at that point I'm just wasting cards. But for now, because we don't have that card, I'm not running Sekka's Light. Alright, so another question that I've been asked as well is, why don't you run the Genex Sundyne in your hand? And so, or in your deck. So, you know, the 3 Undyne, the controller, the Rosenix already run because it's a good card that gives you advantage. But the Undyne editor is like, why don't you run the Undyne? Everyone knows the play where you summon Undyne, send the Rosenix, get the controller, banish it, get the Link Spider summons this, and those 2 give you a Nightmare Goblin. That's all nice and good, but you just gave up 2 cards from your hand just to get an extra normal summon. Granted, you did get 3 link materials, so that was good value. But what in your hand are you going to have? Remember, the biggest thing with this deck is you want the hand size to be big. That's why Neptibus is the best card that you run in your deck. You want your hand to be as big as possible so that your Megalo plays go through. If you don't have any Megalo plays, your ceiling goes from really high to really low because you have no other cards to play. The only other way to make your ceiling any higher would be to run Nimbles, but if you run Nimbles, there's better plays to do with the Undyne than Link Spider or Nightmare Goblin. You could do Curious Nightmare Goblin with 1 card, and you can get an extra normal summon. But the thing with the Nimbles is they clog, and there's already a lot of bricks in the deck. So I like this combo. It's really cool. It's really cool on paper, but the the Nightmare Goblin Link Spider I don't think is the correct play to do. 1, it gets rid of 1 water monster you had. 2, it discards another water monster that you might have had that could have, given you a good thing. So it's hard to justify getting rid of 2 cards and starting with a 3-card hand just to get this combo off, because there's nothing in your deck that you could possibly normal summon to make this combo any better. Now, some people might be saying, well, what if you draw Diva and what if you draw that? That's all fine and well, but if you drew Diva, there's no point in doing this combo. The whole thing is, so let's do a test hand real quick. Let's say we drew, here, we'll get these out of the way. Let's say we drew the Prince, like the best normal summons that we have. The Prince, that, and the Frog. Those are the best normal summons that we have in our deck. So if we drew this hand and what's another good normal summon that we might have? Let's see. I'm not too sure. See, that's the problem with this deck. You don't have a lot of good normal summons. But let's just say we just drew a random water monster. So I'll add a Gamma Seal to my hand. So what do we do if we drew this? Well, obviously the first thing to do would be to get the Undyne, send the Rosenix to the graveyard, and get the controller to the hand, right? Awesome. You banish the Rosenix, you get the token, you get rid of the token, do the Link Spider. Once you do that, the Link Spider summons a controller, and then there you go, you have your Link 2 combo. So let's say we discard the Gamma Seal, right? So now what? Well, you could summon the Diva to get you a Neptibus from the deck, and then increase your hand by 2 cards. The problem is you can't get 2 rank 7s from your deck to the field with 2 cards. You need 3 cards, because you have to be able to discard cards from Megalo. The problem with this deck is you're not able to do that. Now the link pointers are nice and all, but there's no point in doing this. This combo just costs you 2 cards. Why would we do that when we could just increase our hand with this guy and use the rest of them as link materials? You're going to gain all the tokens back. This isn't necessary. And then you could have just pulled this straight out of the deck with the Summon Sorceress. You don't need this. It wastes your hand. So now you only have 3 cards to play with. I mean, I'm sure you could do that and then go into Saryuja, but now you have 2 cards to play with. Saryuja will get you 1 more, and it'll get you a special summon. But then what's the point? You can't use this anymore. You could probably make a Toad Saryuja. Why not make Toad Saryuja? Why not make the Griffin, the Toad, and the Cat Shark with the pop on it? That'd be better, or even better yet, why not make Toad, Cat Shark, and... I'm sorry, why not make Griffin, Toad, and the Herald of the Arc Light? If you really need 2 negates to protect your Floodgate, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, when it comes to the combo with the Genic Sundyne, it's nice. I feel like this combo would be amazing in a deck that pluses off its normal summons. If you have a deck that pluses off its normal summons, this seems like it would be the perfect deck. But Mermails isn't one of those decks. Mermails isn't a deck full of Stratos. Mermail isn't a deck like that. Mermail is a deck that pluses off its hand. It gets a big hand and it explodes. And the center of all that is this guy, not this guy. Now, when the needle fiber comes out, you'll be able to do this and then bring out tuners and then get 6 link materials with 1 card, which is going to be great. But the way it is right now, you're probably not going to be able to do that for a while. All right, so one of the other reasons that I get is why are we running Crystron, Rosenix, or Fishborg Archer? Why are they, or Fishborg Launcher, sorry. Why are they so important to the deck? Well, that's simple. They're a water monster, so they work really well. I only run 1 of each because they're hard ones per turn, and I want every single card that I run in my deck to be live as soon as I draw it. If I draw 3 launchers or 3 Rosenix, 2 of them are dead, so they're basically bricks. I can run 1 of each. That means I can resolve each once per turn. The Rosenix is self-explanatory. You discard it, banish it, get a token, so it's a 2/4. It counts as fodder for your discards like Abyssteus and Abyss Megalo, but then it also counts as a monster on the field. So it counts as fodder, and then it can remove itself to give you another link material. In the old format, it was very important for us to get a link 2 or a link 3 up here, and then make the Tomahawk to make more tokens. With the Sorceress, it becomes even more important because now what she can do is she can copy a token and bring him straight out of the deck. That's huge because if you make 1 Tomahawk, Tomahawk basically makes it so you can make the really big board every single time. And so that's one of the big reasons that I run it. The Fishborg Launcher works in a very similar manner. It's a level 1, so if I need to make a Link Karibo, then I can still make the Link Karibo without damaging my play too much. One of the cool thing about these cards too, you discard it and then it just comes back because everything you discarded was pretty much water. One of the cool plays though is the good thing is these actually have really good synergy with this guy right here, with the Abyssteus. And the reason they do is because Abyssteus usually by himself, the Teus can usually search out the Osha. Osha gets you 2 cards, sends the Teus, leaves you with 3 monsters. Usually you would need an Aqua Spirit to make a Link 4 play or to make a Link 3 play, to make your Bahamut Toad with Mistar Boy or, anything like that. That is an old combo, so I really don't play that combo anymore. The newer combos are maybe to make Saryuja with 2 cards. Which is big because Saryuja ends up fixing your hand. But that's a 3-card combo. The cool thing about these guys, when you pitch him, get the Osha, get 2 more, you can bring him back because he ends up going to the graveyard. So I'll show you how the play works. So you could discard him. You can get the Osha. Where'd she go? She's in here somewhere. Did I miss her? Where'd she go? Did I put her over here? Let's see. Let me check one more time. All right, that's there. That's Mander, that. The Gund. Wait, I'm not losing my mind, am I? No, that's not there. Maybe it's over here. Let's see. Oh, that's right. I think I drew it as just like a 4th card or a 5th card. Let's check it out. Where are you? You Osha? Oh, you know what? She's in my extra deck. So you would summon the Osha, and then you would bring out a Link 4 and a Link 3. So I'd bring out the gun down. So then this goes to the graveyard. Well, the great thing is this just needs another water in the graveyard, so he could just summon itself. If you would have had the Rosenix, you would just banish it and get a token anyway. That's 4 monsters with 4 different names. Send them all, summon Saryuja, draw 4, put 3 back. That's perfect because if you really need to fix your hand, Teus and that can fix your hand for you, and you don't have to waste your well, you did have to waste your normal summon, but Sarguja gives you a special summon. You can continue your plays from there if you want to, but that's the big reason I run the launcher and the Rosenix, is because they're compatible with a lot of things in our deck. This is really good with the new summon sorcerers. It was really good whenever we were just doing Link 2s, Link 3s in the extra deck zone. But now it's even better because the sorceress just brings it out and makes any play with Neptibus auto win, or what you call it. It makes the board automatically complete without you having to rely on anything else. The Tomahawk just fills in the gaps, and then this takes care of the rest. It gives you the 6, 7, 8. It counts as the 8th card. That gives you 8 materials that the old combo would do, but with a lot more consistency, which is great. And then the launcher makes it so that you can still make those old combos still link up to Link 3s, and it'll still work with the Teus and other cards that you can discard and bring back for other Link materials, which is good. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about these cards. Originally, I was just running one sphere. I bumped it up to the Mizuchi as well. One for the OTK, because you equip this, you do more than 8,000 points of damage. And then B, especially because you don't run the, what is it called? Not the infantry, the marksman. Because I don't run the marksman, I can't, pierce for some more damage and bring out cards from my deck. So I need the extra 1,600 with this. And then this sphere is great because it lets you bring something out, pop something by discarding an infantry. You run multiple infantries now, so if you don't get a pair of infantry to make a cat shark on the field, but you do draw a sphere, you can flip it, get the Mermail that lets you discard the pike or the Turge, whichever one you like to run, and pitch it so that you can continue your plays, get more cards, and disrupt your opponent during their turn. But the big reason I run them is because I want to get value from my Megalos whenever I'm making my turn 1 play. Anytime I summon a Megalo, I feel like I'm just wasting cards. And if I draw 4 cards and a spell, even if the spell's good and I had to use it, well, now I'm down to 4 cards. You can make the whole field without any cards in your hand. The problem is you need at least 1 card to discard for the Nightmare Mermaid whenever you link up to it. This ends up making it so that you don't have to do that, because every time you summon a Megalo, here's a card. Every time you summon the other Megalo, here's a card. So now your hand has at least 2 cards, so if you have to go into those plays, once you use your Megalos for the Tomahawk, so here I'll show you the combo again. So once you do the Prince, you send 1, you get 1, you get a Megalo. So assuming that you drew the 2 worst water monsters in the deck that can't do anything the first turn, this would mean that you could, this would be on the field. You'd be able to discard these 2. And actually, you would have needed a 3rd water monster if that's all you did. But yeah, if you end up drawing that, if you end up not drawing Light of Sekka or Sekka's Light or whatever you want to call it, then, here, we'll just do an Osha. Then you'd still be able to get your Megalo. There he is. And the first Megalo would get you one of the spells. I always go for the Mizuchi because if my play gets interrupted here, I have the Mizuchi to equip to the Megalo and I can still have something on my field. I'm not completely SOL. Then I could summon the other Megalo, and then that Megalo gives us another card. So you started with 4, you actually ended with 5. And this is great because now you can go into your whole play, and if you need to activate your nightmares, you still can because you have 2 cards additional on your field. Again, once we get Crystron, once we get Needle Fiber, these aren't going to be as necessary, especially if you're going to build the Sekka build. But for now, they're very important because you got to keep your hand size bigger. And you can start cycling these out to get aqua monsters. So whenever you end up with the toad here in the corner, you'll be able to negate instead of tributing itself. So you'll get extra value for it. The body will stay there, and you'll be able to discard cards to negate your opponent's card effects, as opposed to just having to discard it and hoping your opponent doesn't have a Called by the Grave or anything like that. One of the best cards in the format right now. But that's the big reason for these. I like to keep my size big, the cards big, and then this is good by itself. This is good if you draw a Mermail, which should run a ton of them. So chances are you'll be able to get it. This is also going to be great too whenever that Link to Mermail comes out. Because if you draw a Neptibus and a bunch of spells and traps, this is still good because you just need one extra water. You'll be able to rip 2 cards from your opponent's hand and equip this to her so that you rip 2 and you can get an additional negate for that, which is great. So one of the other cards that I was actually tinkering around with is this card, and it's called Crystron Thistfern. And the cool thing about this card is it's another Crystron card, kind of like Crystron Rosenix. But what it does, instead of summoning a token, you can banish it from your graveyard, and you can search a Crystron from your deck and add it to your hand. This card was huge because a lot of the times I would end up drawing this card. I would draw a Neptibus, and then I would draw a random card. And so the wonderful thing about this card is it would make it so that I didn't have to draw as many water monsters because this counted as 2. And this is how it worked. You would summon your Neptibus. You would, I'll put these right here. You would send a Dragoons to get a Dragoons to get a Megalo. So you would do that, right? And so now you would discard the Dragoons and the Thistfern to summon your first Megalo. So your Megalo is going to search, your Dragoons is going to search a Megalo. Your Megalo will search, not the Sphere, we'll search the Mizuchi first. And so that's what you end with. Well, now the problem is, okay, so now what do I do? Well, the cool thing about the Thistfern is because you have it in your graveyard, you can banish it, and you can add a Rosenix directly from your deck to your hand. And the reason this was important, it was really huge because now it made your Megalo live. And now you can discard those 2 to summon your second Megalo, get your Sphere. And even better, you could banish the Rosenix and you can continue your plays, which is wonderful. The problem with this now is a lot of the times what would happen, well, one of the cool things about this too is it's a level 3 water. So it's searchable with the Pike. If you drew the Pike, you were able to make that combo as well. But unfortunately with it, a lot of the times, one of the things with this deck is you really don't need any additional cards to get more waters in your hand if you don't draw a discard outlet. And so every once in a while what would happen is you would play, you would draw this and then like a Swap Frog. Or, well, no, a Swap Frog was good because you could pitch it, so special the Swap Frog, send a Toad, bring it back, banish it, get the Crystron Rosenix and pitch it again to summon the Swap Frog again, making it so you didn't run out of cards in your hand. But a lot of the times you wouldn't draw this. You would draw like the Abyssteas, and you would have to discard this. The problem is whenever you did that, you would get stuck with the Rosenix in your hand because you didn't really have any other plays you can go with. You could summon the Osha, make some link plays, but with 3 monsters, there's really not a lot of link plays you can make. So this card was great when you drew him, but it was really not that good when you drew anything else. And those are your 2 main play starters. It's usually the Prince, the Megalo, or the Teas. And if you don't draw any of those and you draw something else, a lot of the time you can usually play your way around other stuff. But if you didn't, it didn't really help your game state. It didn't help you continue. And now that you don't even need that much in your hand, it becomes a little bit worse because, well, one, you're running 1 card to search a card that you run 1 in your deck, so that's already bad. If you hard drew the Rosenix and this was in your deck, this was a dead card. But now that you just need a rank 7 on your field, this becomes a lot more useless, because now you don't even have to have a hand that big. Well, no, not even that. You want your Rosenix in the deck because you want to be able to pull it out with the sorcerers, and then that's going to continue your combo plays. This is not as necessary as it used to, but this is a great card. I was actually thinking of incorporating Crystals into my deck just because I like some of their effects. This was great because you could search. This was great because you can, you know, get more field advantage. This was probably the most useful one out of the both. I would want to search it, but then why would you want to search it when you can pull it out of your deck, especially now? And then if I'm not advancing my game state, if I'm not able to how do I put this? If I'm not able to actually get to where I need to be, then this becomes a little bit more of a break. Now, granted, you do run the Nightmare, so you can always discard it to bring out a Nibbly, you know, do your combos that way. But at that point, you're kind of just burning through a lot of power cards in your deck just to make mediocre plays. And that's not very consistent. Why run something that searches a card when the card you have already is very searchable? But it's a good card. I like it a lot. It just feels like it's unnecessary. The deck space is already a little bit tight. Actually, I was able to fit this in here because I was running the Mizuchi. I wasn't running a Mizuchi, but now that I run the Mizuchi, I'd rather get more value off my Megalos and have a big beat stick than have this. It'll increase my hand size, sure, but if I don't have really anything else to do with the card, then there's no point in me running it. I guess it feels like it's overkill. I might play around with it a little bit more, just maybe do a few duels with it. But for now, I feel like it's not necessary. If a time comes where, you know, the sorceress gets banned or something that makes our field plays a lot less strong, I can easily see me putting this back in my deck, because I could just banish it, get the Rosenix, and get more discard fodder for it. This is good in a vacuum, but it doesn't help us advance our game state. And I actually ended up cutting this because the lineup that I had was this, the Rosenix, and the Fishborg launcher. And so whenever I ended up doing that, I was like, that's perfect. But then I said, oh man, I forgot to run 1-for-1. And I know it's an Ash target, but I would rather run something that gets me to my starter than something that just helps my starter. I already have a lot of cards that help my starter. Now I need to focus on getting him to the field. And the 1-for-1 does that. All right, so another question that I always get a lot is, hey, why don't you extra link? Why do you go for that one combo that has a few pieces of disruption? The extra link is stronger, the extra link is hard to stop, you know, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, okay, well, let's see. Well, in order to build the extra link, you need the Mermaid, you need the Link Haribo, you need the Firewall, Goblin, Cerberus over here, and the Phoenix over here. Well, the Firewall usually takes the place of the Phoenix, but you need the Firewall to actually do it. So far you need this many cards. You need the Tomahawk, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and we need a Trigate Wizard. So we'll do the Trigate Wizard, just like that. No big deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, let's go through the link combo, right? So what we'll do is we will start with the best combo you can draw, you know, Teus Neptivus. So we'll summon the Prince. I mean, you guys have seen this before. Send one, get this. Send that. We're going to get... With the Summon Sorceress, you actually don't even need to get... It doesn't matter what you get, just as long as you get 2 level 7s. So we're just going to get... It doesn't matter. We're going to get... You know what? We'll get a Popper. An Infantry. Get rid of both. Get rid of this. Actually, that doesn't even matter. Just go up here. Make your Tomahawk. Boom. And now you have 4. Okay, cool. So you go to 3, make your insulator. You go to 2, make your link spider. And so now you get rid of both of those. You go into the Sork. She gets you out of machine, the rows, and now you can go to 1 and you can go, well, we just run these, so let's do the Cerberus. Well, that's the problem. The Cerberus you need, because if you get rid of the Cerberus, is how you're going to use it for the protection effect. Same thing goes with the Phoenix. Now, if we did the Phoenix with the extra link, the arrow that's on the side or left or right has to be pointing to where your extra deck or the extra monster zone is. So where if you do this, you're not going to get the battle protection from the Phoenix. Okay, so now what we did, we're going to need more cards now. We can do the Goblin, but yeah, you know what? Let's do the Goblin. We don't need the Goblin's effect, right? But no, we do need the Goblin's effect. It's this targeting effect. And the Goblin's going to make it so that we can get the guy back. We can get the Nightmare Mermaid. The Nightmare Mermaid brings out the Ibly, and then we get rid of the Ibly. The Firewall puts it back in our hand, and it makes it so that we can actually do something with the Ibly here on the field. When we summon the Ibly, it brings back and it has to bring back a link monster that points to it. But the problem you're going to run into is, well, what about the Ibly? We need the Ibly to point to something. So we'll just do the Goblin for now, so you know what I'm talking about. So we have 1 token left. We'll get rid of these 2, and we'll summon our Firewall Dragon, right? No biggie. We get rid of this. We would have added a card in our hand. It doesn't really matter. We just need to have a card to activate the Mermaid's effect. So the Mermaid will summon the Ibly. And you know what? I won't even draw. I'll just keep the sphere in my hand. There we go. So now we have these 2, and we are able to summon. Uh-oh. Well, we got it. We want to save our Cerberus and our and our Phoenix. So now what? We want our Goblin 2 here, because if we can get rid of the Goblin, we can bring the Ibly back to summon it. So we can't use these. We ran out of cards that we can use to put here. So let's just say we ran another Goblin. So I don't have another Goblin, so we'll just say this is a Goblin. It's a proxy for a Goblin called Proxy Dragon. So we'll discard draw. I'll just keep the same one because they're extra linked. Now we can banish the Rosenix. We need to get another monster on our hand. Oh, the problem is we have 1 monster on the field. We need to be able to trigger Firewall's effect again. So now what do we do? Well, if we would have traded this and drawn a monster, okay, so let's just say we did that. So, okay, awesome. Now we were able to drop the monster. So now we can get rid of both of those. But we need another level 2 here. I still don't want to waste these. So you know what? We'll do another Proxy Dragon, just in case. This is the second Goblin that we had. This can be a Proxy Dragon. This doesn't matter what it is. It just has to point to the Firewall Dragon, right? So now we can activate the Firewall Dragon's effects. We'll get this back. We need a level 1, so we can put a Link Karibo here. And then after that, we just need anything. It doesn't matter what it is. So we'll just do the Dragoons. Okay? So now what do? You summon the Ibly. The Ibly brings you back your original Goblin, pointing sideways, negated and everything. And so now you start building your extra link. So you get rid of these 2. You got to get rid of the one next to the Firewall so you can just summon. And now you're going to make your Tri-Gate Wizard right here. Well, the Firewall will let you summon this. Get rid of it. Get the Link Kariba. And so now the Firewall lets you summon again. And then you get rid of it. And you do the Cerberus. Well, how are we going to get the Phoenix out? So that's right. We needed to draw for that broken combo, we needed to draw an additional water monster. And let's say we did draw an additional water monster, you would just special summon it with the firewall and make the Phoenix. So cool, no big deal. That was a 1. Let's see, 1. Oh, where'd he go? 2. Where'd the other guy go? He was here just a second ago. 3. That was a 3-card combo. No big deal. That 3-card combo got us the extra link. So let's see how many monsters we had to go through. Okay. So let's count them. So we had what we need to build the field with. This wouldn't have been on the field because we linked away with it. So this is what we would have ended our board with. Oh, that's right. This would have been that the goblin. My bad. So there's the goblin. We would have needed. Where'd he go? Oh, I'm blind. It's right here. So we would have needed 6 monsters on the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? We would have needed another goblin because remember we need a goblin right here to link away with, or another side pointing nightmare. As long as it's Phoenix, Cerberus, or Goblin. Goblin is probably the best one because it points either way. So if you mess up your placement, no big deal. You have another one. We would have needed Firewall Dragon. We would have needed another side pointing one here. We would have needed Summon Sorceress, Link Spider, Space Insulator, Tomahawk. These are actually normal cards you would run anyway, but so far, just to make the extra link, you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 cards. The extra link takes up 13 cards in your extra deck. This is the rest of the negate package that I had in mind. These cards, this actually isn't even part of it. This you can get rid of it because you can do that combo without it. This is all you need for that extra link package. You don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. And actually you can use the Link Karibo as a target up here and then make the insulator underneath it, so you don't even need the spider. In the other combo, we had to save our Link Karibo because it was gonna go up here. In this one, you don't even need that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We could actually run it if we wanted to, if we messed up. But the thing about this combo requires you, the combo that I play is a lot more efficient with your extra deck space. And it takes up a lot less room, so you don't have to waste a lot of extra deck space making the extra link. Now, the extra link is great. It's really resilient against a lot of stuff, but it's very wasteful. And that's why I don't run the extra link. And so one of my final reasonings, a lot of the times whenever you would end up with the board, this would be the board you'd end up with. Awesome, Griffin, the Goblin, and you would either have the Herald of the Arc Light or the Cat Shark. If you've noticed on my previous videos, I've always gone for the Cat Shark with the material of the infantry under it. The reason that's really important is because a lot of the times what would end up happening is a lot of people would just make something here and just run over the Toad. Anytime you play Mech Knights, anytime you play something that can make a Utopia Lightning, anytime you could do anything like that, they would run over this and then Regeki or Dark Hole or whatever. Well, whenever you run this, the Cat Shark with the infantry would serve as protection for that. That would let you destroy anything on demand, and it wouldn't require you to time it correctly. If your opponent did something in stack chains to where he would destroy something, you can immediately respond, and then once the chain link resolved, the infantry would activate in the graveyard. You could go for the Herald of the Arclight. That's not an issue. But if you go for the Herald of the Arclight, it's another little body that your opponent could just run over. You get a little bit more disruption. So if you go something that's really heavy with milling effects, if you go against Lightsworn, if you go against BA, anything like that, it's probably smarter to make him. But it really kind of depends on the matchup. A lot of the times, if you're going in blind, I usually just do the Cat Shark. And then once I know what they have, then I'll sit on the Arclight. It just kind of depends. I like this because if I'm able to disrupt the right cards for my opponent, the next turn I could just attach my Diva from it, make him 44, and just OTK your opponent from there. This is also really resilient because it can be destroyed by battle, so they can't just cheese this out and destroy it. And even if they, bring out 2 or 3 monsters on the field to try to run this over and then start picking apart my board by battle, no problem. I could just, when they try to attack him, I could detach one, pop him, or pop the other card, and then have him just crash because the attack is doubled. But that's pretty much how that works. But that's pretty much what I wanted to go over. I wanted to go over some of the theories. I know this video was very, very long, but I wanted to make sure I was in depth and letting you guys know what the reasonings for my deck card choices were, why I run the extra deck that I run, and why I made the choices that I did. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and I will get to as many as I can. And right around the video, you should probably getting some little links to my deck profile, my combo videos, that kind of thing. Thanks again.